Welcome to the Feminine Voice of God, a podcast celebrating women's spiritual connections to God, Source, and Spirit, including the mystical and the psychedelic. Join us as we explore women's transformative experiences of divine revelation and spiritual empowerment. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you're listening from. I'm so grateful that you're here, and I'm really excited to record this solo episode, which is going to be episode 4 of season 2 of the Feminine Voice of God. And I am so grateful that you're here. I do have some things that I want to share. And a lot of it has to do with just my life and how it's been going, but also some of the things that I've been seeing with people in my life or people in the world. And as we see and as we know, there's so much happening right now. There's so many things that are going on that are incredibly difficult, incredibly painful. And a lot of it is outside of the everyday person's control. So I want to start by saying that while difficulty exists, what we can do is operate from within our circle of control. And there is a limit to that. There are only a certain amount of things that we are able to actually change and influence that are within that circle. And it usually and very specifically has to do with what we can actually create and do based on our time, our mental space, our emotional space, our reactions. There was something that I had seen quite some time ago that said responsibility means we have an ability to respond. And that is the ability to respond to life and what life brings. So know that you have that ability to respond, and that is your power. And there might be things within your life that are trying to pull you out of that space or trying to make you feel like there's so much that there's nothing we can do or we're all doomed or things are going to end the way that they've always ended. And that brings me to a different point where I want you to also have a deep belief and deep knowing that things in the world are absolutely changing and things are being revealed because everything is shifting. And we are in a pivotal moment right now where we have the opportunity to create a different world. Now, that might not happen in a year. Like, I will say that this is something from just my intuition and from my views of what could be happening. This is something that is going to take us some time. However, with that, I say, continue to do what you can within your circle of control and continue to foster a deep belief and inner knowing that things are working out for the highest good for all beings on every timeline. The best thing that you can do is taking care of yourself and taking care of those around you that are immediately connected to you, that you are able to do that with and for. Of course, if there are people in your life that are not supportive, that are harmful, taking, abusive, and I have to say that because sometimes we don't even realize, but we do have to find ways to hold boundaries, to separate ourselves from these individuals and to use our power, whether that's your voice, your physical self, walking away, leaving a situation. I just had to do this the other day with somebody, um, and I literally had to get up and walk out of the room. And I said, I hope you have a good day. And I have to leave now. Why? Because I didn't want to sit there and be a part of what they were doing. I had worked on communicating effectively with this individual. I held a boundary. I had a boundary. They didn't want to respect that. Because of that, I stood up and walked away. So there are moments when you have to use your inner discernment and knowing to be able to make a decision. And it can be really difficult. So I want to leave you with that message just to start out this podcast. Something else that's coming to me that has been coming up for me that I wanted to share because I see so many incredible people stepping into spiritual work, stepping into awakening consciousness and being more aware of what's going on in their life to a point where they are literally having shifts, timeline shifts within their world. Like this is incredible because it is people having a life being brought to them or options being brought to them by source, universe, God, whatever you like to call it, that are giving you the opportunity to shift and change. And there's something that came up for me when I talk to people because people will say like, oh, I that doesn't happen for me, or I'm blocked and, I don't get those kinds of blessings, or, oh no, this is my life and this is what it's like. And I've never had those opportunities. I want to pause and I want you, me, everyone to become aware of this. It's not that you are maybe blocked. It's that there is a resistance to receiving. There's a resistance to change. And I know that's difficult to hear and understand, but just give me a moment. There is something that lives within us that's in the mind. It is something that keeps us trapped in past conditioning and ways of living. And it can be the fear of the unknown. It can be the way we self-sabotage. It can be some way that we avoid. It can be a fear of failure, a fear of success. But this past conditioning keeps us in a space where when something is brought to us, an opportunity is brought to us, a circumstance is brought to us, something happens, things move and shift and change within the world and in the universe. People, places, and things have moved for us to be in a particular moment at a particular time to meet certain people, to have different opportunities, to be able to step into a different timeline of our life. And guess what? The past conditioning, the fear of the future, the fear of change, the resistance to that keeps us in the same place because it's more comfortable than the unknown. So being more comfortable, even as uncomfortable as you might be in the present place that you are in, you would rather be there than step into the unknown because you don't know what's going to happen, because you can't predict that, because you can't control what's going to go on and what's going to be. And that right there, this is where I get a little spiritual with it. That right there is what keeps you from being able to receive what Source has for you. because the universe and God responds to people that show up with a deep inner knowing and a space of being able to surrender to the unknown, to show up with curiosity to what is coming up. See things in your life as an opportunity to learn, shift, change, and evolve. These circumstances are brought to you as that opportunity. And again, I bring it back to what's within the circle of control, right? Because there are some things, I'm sure your mind will take you there, to all these big giant things that will be evidence for your mind of why you're not in control and why you have to, dare I say, remain a victim of the circumstances in which you are living. Know that that is all part of the plan to keep you small, to keep you living within a limited belief system that has been put into you since you were born. And I know, trust me when I say that I know there are circumstances where this type of, let's say, perception of life is is definitely difficult and feels almost impossible. And I will say that within life, you have opportunities to, again, respond to what is happening, to choose how you want to respond to what is existing. So that blocking is coming from a place that you are holding on to a limited belief, past identity, resistance to change. And there's something that comes up for me that I'm thinking about. A couple of things actually that I have learned through not only my mental health journey, but through working with others. I work in mental health in Los Angeles, is the cognitive distortions that come up. And one of the biggest ones that keeps people really limited is called all or nothing thinking, or black and white thinking. And it's this thinking that goes something like, if you don't do something perfectly, then you're a failure, or you can't do it at all. Or if I'm not right about this, that means that I'm wrong. So it's that black and white. I want you to know that in that, between the black and the white, there's a whole spectrum in there of light, of gray. There's a gray area. And in that gray area is where all of these options and other ways of thinking exist. But you have to be willing to step out of being fully in the black or fully in the white way of thinking. So it's very similar with our soul evolution. And we think that we're either bad people or good people. Similar. There is this gray area where we all exist. And yes, I will say, sometimes we're either leaning to one side of the spectrum more than the other. However, when you start to look at your life with this gray area and think more in a space of, you know what, I wasn't able to complete that today. It's all good. Tomorrow's a new day. Right now's a new moment. I can move forward. Hey, maybe the way that I'm thinking about this isn't 100% true. Because there are other perspectives that exist, all the other people that were involved in that. And back to the point that I was making about us blocking and being resistant. Maybe this time something will work out for me in some way. I don't know. Even if it's something small, even if something tiny shifts and changes, do you know how powerful that is? How incredibly powerful it is to take the one step, to have the one shift. The quote, how does it go? The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. So remember that your mind has this way of thinking. And a lot of these ways of thinking are ways that it has been programmed to think. So when you're in that way of thinking, what's happening is that you might not be blocked. You're resisting receiving because it feels more comfortable, because it feels more known and understood, because you've done it before, because you've been living that way before. So when you ask for blessings, when you ask for change, when you ask for things to show up differently, remember that that part of you will come up and exists. And it will attempt to keep you in the same place because, as I said, as uncomfortable as it may be, there's comfortability in the predictability of what you've been living in. It's time to awaken from that. It's time to be ready and willing to step onto the path of knowing, surrender, and devotion to what is coming up. And this is really difficult for people. And I get it. Like, trust me when I say I understand this because I have been that. And that's why I'm speaking to this now because I have been there. So this whole episode, I feel like, is about how we stand in our own way, how we are blocking, how we are resisting receiving, because we do. So these are some of the thoughts, lessons, sharings that have been coming up for me recently. Before I close, I want to give you one more that I received in my last ceremony. It was a facilitators only, so it was different from when we're in service and ceremony. We get to do the work also, so that way when we are in service, we can be a clear channel and vessel for the work that needs to happen. So I was doing some of my own work. I had gone through some of the things that were coming up for me at the beginning. I shed a lot of tears. I released a lot of things, and I felt so incredible. And there was this moment where the feminine energy, and I'll say like the global feminine energy. And when I say global, I mean not only the women that are living on the planet, but I mean like the planet itself, the feminine energy of the planet itself became really heavy. It was the dark feminine, I'll say. And I remember going through and sitting through her process with her and feeling all of these feelings of the feminine beings that live on the planet, but then this immense sadness and disappointment, but also this fierce and powerful rage from the feminine and the planet. And I got this message, which I have received before. I actually received this message before in Hawaii about how the planet is suffocating because of the way that she is being harvested and used. And because of the way that she's not being respected and how we are not connecting to her and to our own nature of interconnection with the system in which we are living in a way where we're honoring, respecting, and living in a cyclical way. So I definitely got that. And right after that, and man, I was breathing through that and I was working through that. And the person that I was there with, I was thinking of him. It was a dear friend. He and I did this ceremony together, and I was like, I hope he's okay over there. And I knew he was, but there was a part of me that was like, this is some heavy feminine energy. And he felt it, and we definitely talked about it after. Right after that, the masculine energy comes in. And it started with this very powerful, very respectful, very aware, very present masculine energy. And it felt so grounding and comforting, protective. And in that process, that energy started to shift and change, where I was also shown how masculine energy has been distorted and changed to a point where it became about survival. And that survival meant collecting as many resources as possible, harming others, killing others for resources, destroying them, destroying the planet, destroying each other, to maintain and hold on to resources because it's coming from a place of survival and fear, and how that wounded place, that wounded energy has contributed to where we are right here and right now. Just bringing us around to the beginning of this conversation about how things are and how things are happening right now, things outside of our control, outside of our immediate circle of control, and how that needs to shift and change. So I say this before we close, before I close with you. My message would be feminine. The feminine needs to be honored, needs to be respected. And I say this not only from the masculine and from other people that are outside of feminine, but I say this to the feminine, to the masculine, because remember, energies, it lives within us, the polarity of both and everything in between. So think about, again, the black and white and everything in between, all of the gray, it all lives within. Okay. It's a micro to the macro. It's mirrored in ourself. That feminine needs to be respected. She needs to be honored. She needs to be held, and she needs space to be expansive and to grow and to be herself. And I mean that not only for us as women, but for the planet. And women, I say to you, it is time. It is time to remember that power. It is time to integrate your emotions in a way where you are not ruled by them, run by them, and showing them in a way that is not helpful, supportive, or effective for you. And you can take that whichever way you'd like. But I will say, as a woman that has been in a position where my emotions ruled my world, it wasn't helpful. So it's learning to manage, mitigate, honor, and respect them in a way where you also can use logic when necessary. So I ask you to take that. I ask you to remember that you don't need to be needed. You don't need to be chosen. You get to do that for you. And you get to illuminate the path that you are stepping on. And by illuminating that path for yourself and within yourself and being your most authentic and powerful feminine self, you illuminate that path for others. And to the masculine, I say this. It is time for you to awaken from the story of survival, of fear, and of nothing but logic. Because we live in a world that does not only exist on the logical. It is time for you to tap into your space of connecting to your heart in a present and an aware way, where you are integrating your feelings, your emotions that you maybe have suppressed or haven't held space for in a very long time. And you get to be the sacred witness to them, to integrate them, to utilize them in a way that supports you to make decisions that are centered within your heart and not only within the mind, not only within fear, not only within survival. And that's what we need, is the integration of those two energies within the self for it to be fully integrated within the world that we are existing in. Because without that, we remain as these polar opposites. Again, it comes back to the black and white thinking that either or, it's either one or the other. You're right, I'm wrong. If you don't do it this way, then not at all. So it's finding the gray area and meeting in that space, right? The yin and the yang has one dot, the dot of each in the other. Why? Because there is space for you to integrate both sides, each part. I mean, and this is reflected in the planet. Like, you don't have to believe me. Don't just listen to what I'm saying. I mean, look at the world. Look at the planet. Look at how she exists. Look at the balance that she's created for all beings to be able to live here. And it comes with life, and it comes with death, and it comes with everything in between. It's even reflected in the sun and the moon. The sun rises and shines. It allows the moon time to rise and shine. There's times when the sun is out and the moon is out too, and they're out together. They represent the feminine and the masculine as well. The lunar and the solar. That lunar and solar lives within us. So I leave you with that. And I leave you with the message to awaken. We need you awakened. Men, we need you awakened. Women, we need you awakened. It is time. The time is now. The world is shifting and it is changing. And if you're listening to this podcast right now, then I know that you're a part of it. I know that you're a part of it because you wouldn't be here if you weren't already awakening. Thank you for showing up today. And thank you for being here.
Thank you for tuning in to the feminine voice of God. May the divine feminine within you continue to guide and inspire your spiritual journey. Stay connected, share your insights, and embody the wisdom shared on our podcast. Until next time, may the sacred essence of the feminine illuminate your path.